Hi, everybody. My name is Basil Seggos. I'm the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Commissioner, and I am thrilled to be with you today as you convene on this 50th anniversary. Congratulations on behalf of Governor Hochul and the 3,000 men and women at DEC for hitting the 50-year mark. It's a remarkable achievement. And welcome to the club. We hit it last year, 50 years, during a pandemic year. Yes, we looked back at the last 50 years of accomplishments and achievements, but we also took it as an opportunity to look ahead to the next 50 years of the challenges that will undoubtedly face us as we look to keep New York State a national leader on so many issues. Thank you for all you've done over the decades. Thank you, Simon, for leading a great organization and bringing together members from all over New York State. And thank you to your great board, especially Assemblyman Steve Otis, who's been a great friend of DEC and a great friend of the environment, a terrific representative to his constituents down in Westchester. Sir, I look forward to seeing you during the upcoming legislative session. Let's make it a great one. I want to start with a note of optimism. You have to be optimistic in these jobs with all the calamities that we have to deal with on a regular basis, whether it's oil spills or water pollution or air pollution or access to the outdoors. You have to remain optimistic that there is a path forward. And I am particularly optimistic right now. Why? Because of people like you, because of the strong relationships that we have with local government, with the strong relationship that we have now with the federal government. We have a great relationship with President Biden, Administrator Regan at the EPA, and all of his cabinet members. That's a great change from the last 4 years of very difficult work where we seemingly push rocks uphill on a daily basis with the feds. I'm also optimistic because the business community has embraced the environment. You see incredible innovation right now happening around the country on clean energy, on more sustainable ways of growing food. This is an opportunity where we have federal, state, local government, nonprofit organizations, and corporate America, all with this incredible opportunity to truly lead on the environment and take advantage of this crisis that we're in the middle of right now with climate change. Make no mistake that the fight for the next 50 years is very much underway, but I want you to know that here at DC, we're optimistic that we have a path forward on addressing all these incredible problems that we have to deal with. I'll just talk about a few of our priorities. Certainly, first and foremost, climate change. All of us are on the front lines of this existential threat. Certainly disadvantaged communities, far more so. Hurricanes, wildfires, supply chain disruptions, nations and regions destabilized. Science is painting a fairly significant picture that what we're experiencing now with these disruptions is due to the rapidly changing climate. So we have to do everything we can to address that. Yes, it feels like the sky is falling at times. But again, back to that note of optimism, you should know that New York is going to do everything it can to remain at the forefront, to remain leaders on the climate movement. And with Governor Kathy Hochul in her leadership position, I am extraordinarily confident that we will be able to turn the tide and show the world what it means to take action on climate. The governor has only been in office for 2 months. She hit the ground running. The second day she was in office, she met with EPA Administrator Regan to help to coordinate that joint effort, that joint state-federal effort on climate action. Shortly thereafter, she was at the helm during not one but 2 hurricanes. I know that you experienced downstate. Shortly after that, signing the zero-emission vehicles law into effect, which mandates zero-emission vehicles by 2035. So that's taking immediately this crisis that we were beset with, the storms that we had to deal with in New York State, and turning it into action, signing this law into effect. And from that, we had Climate Week in New York City, where the world descended on New York City to discuss climate change and the ways in which states and nations would address this looming crisis. The governor announced 2 major green energy announcements, 2 so-called extension cords that would bring clean energy down to New York City. Ultimately, half of New York City's energy will be from renewable sources upstate, which is a terrific achievement. She also expanded the state's solar program to 10 gigawatts, enough to power 1.7 million homes by 2030. That's another remarkable achievement. And on the resiliency side, freeing up some much needed dollars for communities, $600 million for our aging wastewater infrastructure and water infrastructure around the state, which will undoubtedly increase the state's resiliency in the face of climate change. Next year, the governor will be putting a $4 billion question to the, with the legislature, a $4 billion question to the voters for an environmental bond act, which will help to increase resiliency across the state and protect water for all of our drinking water and wastewater needs. She also launched this very innovative air monitoring initiative across New York State, which DEC will be leading in 10 different communities, covering up to 5 million New Yorkers using the most cutting-edge technology of anywhere in the world, where we will have not just block by block, but lot by lot depiction of where pollution is coming from. This is going to be extraordinarily important in the most impacted frontline communities in urban areas where we know we need to make change for the benefit of the communities of the future. I want to make note, all of this that the governor has undertaken in the first 2 months of her tenure builds upon the incredible success of the last decade. And I want to update you on one law in particular, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which the governor signed into law in 2019 after working with the legislature to get this law passed. This is the nation's leading climate law. Still, 2 years later, it is the model for how a state can reduce its emissions and protect its jobs, and ultimately transition its entire economy to a net zero carbon emissions economy, while at the same time achieving environmental justice for disadvantaged communities. And that's really the hallmark, that's the centerpiece of the law, is recognizing that frontline communities have borne the brunt of pollution for many years and need to be invested in the future solutions. In implementing this law, I mentioned it came on the books in 2019, we have been meeting nonstop to craft the state's plan. We didn't miss a beat during COVID. Actually, we became, in some ways, more efficient. All of our agencies were able to meet on a regular basis with 127 experts that we convened from around the country, most of whom are from New York, but certainly from around the country. Experts in everything from energy efficiency to transportation to just transition, and are crafting right now a final plan, final draft plan that will go in front of the public for public comment and meetings starting in January of 2022. The final plan, after receiving public comment and working this through with the legislature, the final plan would go into effect in 2023, January 1st, 2023. Very importantly, on environmental justice, we've been working closely with the environmental justice community through the Climate Justice Working Group to solicit the appropriate definition of a disadvantaged community. That's a very important definition. That definition will guide how the state will hit its obligations to hit a 40% benefit investment in disadvantaged communities. So once we know where the disadvantaged communities are, we can appropriately gauge our success in meeting those benchmarks over time. Some early findings on jobs and costs. And now those are among the most asked questions of this initiative that we're in the middle of right now. And the early numbers are very encouraging. The transformation of our economy from one that is dependent on fossil fuels to one that is dependent on renewable energy will be a net benefit of between $80 billion and $150 billion to the state. That's over and above, that's a net benefit over and above the cost that we would have to expend. Now, getting there obviously will not be easy. We have to chart the pathway through rulemakings and legislative changes. But we know that if we do this right, this will create not just incredible economic opportunity for the state, but literally hundreds of thousands of new jobs. So I would encourage you to look closely at this process as it unfolds. Please take a moment to engage in the public comment process and take some optimism from some of the progress made thus far even. I mentioned some of the progress we made on renewables here in New York State. We are one of the fastest growing renewables state in the U.S. right now. Our solar economy alone has already produced 12,000 jobs. And the new commitment that the governor announced will add 6,000 more. Offshore wind, we are the leading state on offshore wind right now. The initiative that we're growing with the offshore wind turbines and the onshore manufacturing facilities is producing thousands of jobs and will produce billions of dollars in economic activity. So we're showing that climate action isn't just good for the climate. It can be good for our communities, and it can be good for our bottom line, our economy, and our ability to compete as a state for many, many, many years to come. We'll be taking some of this momentum to Glasgow at the upcoming international conference, Council of Parties in Glasgow in November. I will be there along with the president of NYSERDA, Doreen Harris, to represent New York State and to push other subnational entities into action on climate, to show them that there's a path forward. So what's next? I mentioned that climate was really one of our top priorities, if not our top priority as an agency. But of course, we have many other priorities, both some mandated by law and some that are just priorities of our own state. Clean water certainly at the top of the list. We've made an incredible investment in water infrastructure over the last 6 years. We've dedicated over $4 billion to water, drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. We have developed a first-in-the-nation approach to emerging contaminants to reduce the presence of emerging contaminants in our water supply, chiefly in the PFAS realm, so that's PFOA and PFAS, as well as 1,4-dioxane. And we're looking down the list at the other threats to our drinking water. Open space protection, setting aside large tracts of land in the Adirondacks, but also importantly, using our water infrastructure dollars to set aside buffer zones around streams and reservoirs, helping to protect farmland, make farmland more sustainable so that our reservoir systems are protected. Addressing harmful algal blooms, something that hits many parts of the state, and dedicating the resources necessary not just to detection and alerts, but specifically to mitigation, and having put over $180 million into watershed protection for the benefit of preventing harmful algal blooms is a smart investment in our future. Invasive species. We've seen an onslaught of invasive species in New York, driven in part by climate change, which is warming our landscape and changing the ecology of our landscapes and encouraging invasive species to move north as temperatures warm. We have a very robust invasive species program here in New York, and always looking for ways in which to strengthen that. Waste continues to be a problem for New York. We produce too much of it. We've got to prevent waste in the first place. Yes, we have to do recycling. Yes, we have to move our recycling rates up. But we must do more to prevent the proliferation of waste from construction and demolition debris and from packaging. And that's something we'll be talking about in the upcoming session. Our focus now, I mentioned the upcoming session, but our focus now is on the upcoming budget for 2022, 2023. This is the time of the year where we work closely with the Division of Budget and the Governor's Office to craft the priorities for the year ahead. And this is an opportunity now, perhaps, with the state's economy on the rebound, to assess staffing levels and resource levels within many agencies, not just DEC, to get to the point where we can competently address the many challenges that face us. And hopefully with Washington, with the effort underway, literally as I speak right now, where final negotiations are underway on various aspects of the federal budget, to get those badly needed federal infrastructure dollars into New York State, operationalizing that for clean transportation, for better roads and bridges, for mass transit, to protect our wetlands and waterways, to reduce some of the heaviest sources of contamination in disadvantaged communities. We need the federal government to do all it can to enact this legislation, get those dollars flowing into the states, in particular into New York, which has long been a beneficiary of federal dollars, and certainly now with our state plans, with what's ahead of us, potentially with the Bond Act next year, a chance to leverage all the state's investments with federal dollars and really make a generational investment in our landscapes. It's something we have to do. Also looking ahead to the coming year, we'll look at the Brownfield Cleanup Program and the State Superfund programs, and ensure those programs are moving ahead well. Both of those programs have been incredible tools for DEC to protect the landscape, protect water supplies, to get formerly contaminated sites back into productive reuse in a safe manner. And that helps certainly to focus development within cities, within urban areas, as opposed to greenfield development, which we generally like to avoid. But overall, I'm thrilled with the opportunities that are in front of us right now. I'm extraordinarily optimistic that we have the right people in place at the local, state, and federal level. We have strong relationships with you all, with the non-governmental community, that all of us are pulling in the same direction. I'm confident that 2022 will be a fantastic year as you get into your 51st year of existence and we get into our 52nd. We'll have a chance to collaborate on so many important initiatives and ultimately translate that into results for New Yorkers. New Yorkers want to see progress on the environment. They want to see progress on jobs. They want to see our economy protected. We have to deliver that. I'm confident that we will. So congratulations on your great 50-year mark. Here's to the next 50. I look forward to being there with you along the way. Thanks.